Sweet action. Okay, so I've got people sending me messages, but obviously I can't reply to them right now. So they'll just, it is what it is. Anywho's, welcome everybody. I'm so glad to be here today. Thank you for the opportunity to be here to speak to all of your beautiful faces. Creative Mornings is such a dope spot. I'm just in love with the community and everybody that attends. You guys know I love meeting you and greeting you by name. That's super important to me. Creative Mornings, the community, they have taken me in, and that's why I started attending, and that's why I started volunteering. So if you're not super connected, man, like, let's get connected right now. We're right here via Zoom, or follow everybody on social media. It's just a great supportive group. So thanks for having me. I'm gonna jump right to it. As much as I love small talk and fluff and banter, here's okay. So I'm saying all that as I'm still doing small talk and fluff and banter when I should just jump to it, like I just said, because I feel like I have a lot to say. So I'm going to go ahead and jump to my screen. I'm excited about this topic. Insecurity Male messaged me the other day and said, hey, like, I appreciate your voice. And number one, thank you for allowing me to use my voice. And with that, they asked, would you speak on this topic? And would you share your heart in a theme? And they allowed me to pick the month because we know Creative Morning has a theme. And I decided to pick this one, not because I'm insecure in my Blackness, but because there are insecurities when you look at, do you know how to let people in that are in the waiting room, let them in? Okay. Okay. Admit all. Yep. Okay. Gotcha. Gotcha. Well, no, you're fine. You're fine. I just saw the message pop up and I wanted to make sure we got people in the building. Anyways, I don't know why I said it like that. I'm a weirdo. It's fine. Anyway, so let's go ahead and get right to it. I am trying to figure out where I need to go. I did a run through of this last night and I was like, I have to make sure I do it right. And of course, when it comes down to it. All right. So insecure. Insecurities are typically a character flaw or hang up of a personality trait or physical appearance or even a lack of knowledge in some form of way. I'm sure nature versus nurture plays a role in that, even physical appearance. And our frame of reference shapes the insecurities that we have, right? So we know that insecurities are to be overcome. And it's like Fear Factor. You eat the spider, be in a enclosed room, whatever that looks like. We're taught in our society to overcome our insecurities, which is good. Because once we get to the root of our insecurities, it somehow builds a sense of accomplishment. And it just builds a little bit more grit there. However, being insecure because of the color of your skin is not a character flaw. In fact, being Black or whatever race you are should be felt with bouts of pride. But that's not the world that we live in. The world tells us that the melanin in your skin determines your future. If you are a good person, if you're a bad person, if you're right, if you're wrong. I've learned to love my skin, but that comes with pushing out stereotypes that are constantly perpetuated by the media. As Black people, our insecurities are validated every time you turn a blind eye to racist or prejudiced comments, every time you don't speak out against it, every time you scoff or laugh at a stereotype in a show that you're watching, or even when you repost something on social media. That reinforces those insecurities that we have. I have this video. Oh man, I was supposed to go to this slide first. But anyways, here it is. Here's this slide. It's just basic definition of insecure. And you'll also take a note on some of the slides. Majority of them up in the upper left corner, I will have a Black fact. So just kind of shout out some different things that are going on. And I'm going to kind of bring that point later on. But I want you to check out this video. And this is a video of why my Black friends are insecure. And hopefully it'll play.
I'm insecure because my non-Black brothers and sisters seem to believe through their actions and conversations and Freudian slips that my Blackness is a piece of decor, it's something exotic, or it's a death sentence.
When I think about being insecure in my Blackness, one of the first things that pop to mind is walking into spaces and being the only Black person, being the only minority in the room, and always finding myself kind of checking myself and seeing if this is a safe space, and trying to figure out what version of myself do I have to be in that space, because I don't know how the other people in the room feel about me as a Black woman.
I'm insecure because the looks that I receive prior to me speaking typically push me into self-doubt. They have me questioning what I look like, what my appearance is coming off as, and a lot of times it has me questioning if what I have to say is of value.
I feel insecure about how much of myself I will have to sacrifice in order to blaze a trail for the next Black woman behind me.
Sometimes I feel insecure when I walk into a room and I'm a new face, but also being African American. I don't know what their perceptions are going to be of me, what they think of me, and so it makes me a little bit nervous.
So I'm insecure because no matter how friendly I look, some people will still see me as a threat.
I'm insecure because of in the industry that I work in, most rooms that I walk into, most people do not look like me.
I'm insecure about the color of my skin.
Let me zoom out. Make sure. Okay, there we go. No. Okay, there we go. So I asked my Black friends to. Oh no, go back. Sorry. I asked my Black friends to send me a video of their thoughts on insecure and their Blackness and Black people and Black Lives Matter and all the things that are going on right now. And I gave very few examples because I wanted their honest thoughts. I didn't want to skew that in any way. And as I started compiling the video together, I had the urge to add their professions underneath their names, because I have some super dope friends that do some super dope things. But then I realized adding their professions felt like I was somehow adding validity to their statements, when actually their statements are already as truth as they're a human. That's valid enough. I also realized that the tone throughout the video was pretty similar. Everybody kind of had the same insecurity going on in their mind. And a lot of that has to do with where we're at, our city. This is Oklahoma. We know that we are in a red state. But it's important that you know these thoughts, because these are the thoughts of the people here in your community, here in Oklahoma City. For me, I've always been the class clown. You guys that know me, I'm louder than life of the party. I'll talk to a stomp. In fact, we had minivans growing up, and I had assigned seats because of me. My parents put me in the very back and apologized to whichever sibling was next to me. And but that only made me talk louder. But like all little girls, I grew up. I see my sister and my dad laughing because they're like, yup, she talks way too loud. Side note, we video chat, my family, like all day, every day. And they're always like, Krista, you're so loud. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't help it. That's just who I am. Whatever. But as all little girls, I grew up to be a woman. I grew up to be a Black woman. I grew up to be a loud Black woman. And as an adult, I grew insecure of my loudness and my bold personality. As an adult, my choice of words, although good, became weaponized because of the color of my skin. Let's take a look at our first lady, the most decorated first lady to ever hold that position, Miss Michelle Obama. She has 2 degrees from 2 prestigious colleges. She's a lawyer, she's a writer. In her most recent documentary on Netflix, she talks about how when she was on the campaign trail in 2007 for her husband campaigning to become the president of the United States, the media, they began to vilify her and personify as an angry Black woman anytime she spoke out on things that she talked about. When in reality, she was being a good team player in the role that she had, right? She was sharing her voice and her mind and her opinions. However, being a Black woman, when we speak passionate, sometimes it comes off as offensive and threatening. So she stopped talking freely. She stopped talking off the cuff. She began to use teleprompters and to be scripted. Ultimately, she was silenced. And if the most powerful woman in our country is being treated as such, how can I not feel insecure about what's happening in my own city, my own job, my own neighborhood, my own community? Silence is part of that insecurity, and many Black children are taught to be silent in order to survive. There's research done by Yale, and they took teachers of 4 and 5-year-olds, one Black girl, one Black boy, one white girl, one white boy, 4 and 5 years old. And they told the teachers to watch for challenging behaviors. Well, the study later on saw that the teachers were more than likely they were just looking at the Black kid, specifically the Black boy, for challenging, difficult behaviors. The findings revealed some conscious and racial bias of the teachers. And here's a quote from the article. If anyone has ever doubted that Black children are not treated as equally in the classroom, the research released this year proved them wrong. In June of 2016, studies state that Black children are nearly 4 times likely to be suspended as white students and nearly twice as likely to be expelled. We are insecure for a reason because we're seen as challenging at such an early age. And I can't help but look back at all the times I was kicked out of a classroom or sent to the office. And I was a child and made my dad's laughing because, I talk too much. Yes. However, it wasn't in a threatening sense, but I can't help but wonder after looking at this study, was that part of the reason? Was I seen as a threat? Was I seen as challenging? Let's go ahead and take a look at this next video while I get it queued up. Another thing that I become insecure about is my health not being taken seriously. We don't have time to go into this, but know that Black and brown women are dying at an alarming rate due to lack of adequate care, a sense of like we're lying about the pains that we feel. So let's check out this next video. Buffer music. Okay, I won't sing.
I sometimes feel insecure about being a white man raising 2 Black boys because I feel like the Black community is looking at how I do their hair, but that's why I keep those boys fresh.
I feel insecure because we don't have a lot of African American friends in our social circles, and we don't know how to really bridge that gap.
I feel insecure that because of that, I might say something hurtful or mean without meaning to.
I'm insecure because I have family members that I dearly love, that I know hold racist beliefs, and I don't know how to talk to them about it in a way that would make them want to change those beliefs.
My insecurities probably come from the fact that I didn't grow up around Black people. I didn't go to a school that there were any Black students. Everybody that I knew looked like me, and so now I don't know how to approach it. I don't know how to talk about it because I've never been around anybody different.
I feel insecure because I worry that my girls will resent me for adopting them into a white family.
I think a lot of white people have good intentions, but most of us have internalized racism and we don't know it and can accidentally make things weird and then don't know how to like backtrack or make up for that. That's one. I think another big one is just like every day realizing that like there's things that I still think that I was that are still in my brain that I was taught that are super racist, like learning that George Washington's teeth were not made of wood, like, and they were actually made of slaves' teeth. Like, it's just a weird whitewashing of history that they tell kids to believe from the second that they're born so that racism's normalized.
Sometimes I'm insecure about whether or not my attempts at being an ally or a support system for my friends and my students of color is seen as being a white savior, even though that's not my intent.
I feel most insecure about raising 2 Black boys because one day I know a day will come where they will ask a white girl out and she will have to say, no, I can't go out with you because you're Black.
I feel insecure because I fear I won't be able to completely prepare my girls to face the real world when they leave my home where they are protected by my white privilege.
So that's super important, and I wanted to share the other side of the coin of the insecurities that my white friends feel, because their point is completely valid as well. I wanted to share that because I want my black friends to see, hey, this is the insecurity on this side. This is perspective. I'm 100% about sharing perspectives. And I wanted to share this one, not to try to produce this white fragility type deal, but to have a true understanding. A lot of my white friends have reached out here recently, and all of them have said similar things. And so I want you to know the thoughts that you have towards race, whether you're uncomfortable because you just don't know, that's okay. That's quite okay. And it's okay because that is a valid thought that you have, right? A valid feeling that you have, just like my black friends have their valid thoughts. What I want to do is find a bridge between those insecurities. If we're trying to move the conversation forward, the only way we can do that is if we are to understand that everybody is coming to the table with something, right? And if we understand that, then we can come with grace, we can come with love, we can come with understanding, and that ultimately helps move the conversation forward. My hair, y'all know my hair changes, as you can tell. Like the NDRE song, I am not my hair. I was singing, but we don't have time and my voice isn't very well. And that way it's fine. I am not my hair, but at the same time I am. And this is an insecurity for a lot of black women because we feel the pressure of having to, there's a saying, if my hair is relaxed, then white people are relaxed. And what relaxed, if you don't know, just means straight, like chemically straightened. And unfortunately, that is true in more cases than not. But I love to change my hair. As you see, I cut it all off like that bottom picture on the right, or I'll rock braids, or I'll rock whatever it looks like. My style is going to change no matter what. I'm going to rock a wig. I'm going to rock a head wrap. I'm going to put braid. It don't matter. But my black experiences, oh wait, no, I skipped a whole deal. It's okay. I'm gonna come back to that slide. It's fine. We're gonna keep going with the hair deal. I love my hair. I love my hair so much. You can ask my family. I'm actually obsessed with it, and I become impulsive when it comes to my hair. And to the sense where I'm just gonna cut it off because I feel like cutting it off. I love changing my hair. It's who I am. As you can see throughout the years, I take full advantage of the things that I can do, but I didn't always think this way. A lot of my insecurity comes from being perceived as ghetto or having unkept hair. Maybe it came from a time when I was in 5th grade and I was chased around the parking lot of my elementary school by my white friends. They held me down and they pulled out my weave ponytail. Maybe that's why I'm insecure. I was mortified. And I grabbed my ponytail and I got in my car, and when my mom came and picked us up, and I didn't know what to do in that instance. Do I yell at them? Do I not? Like, I didn't know. Maybe that what also contributed to my insecurity is when a white person goes to touch my hair. I might flinch. I might swerve. I may swat your hand out of the way. I may do all these things, but it's for a reason, right? And sorry, I lost my train of thought. Let me get back to it. If you have never heard this before, I want you to listen closely. Don't randomly touch a black woman's hair. And that should be a thing in general. It's like touching a pregnant woman's belly. Like, that's not okay. It's inappropriate. And most importantly, when you try to go and touch my hair, I feel like I'm your pet, and I am not your pet. I am a human being. Also, I don't know where your hands have been. Statistics say that 66% of Americans don't wash their hands after using the bathroom. In this COVID pandemic we're going through right now, keep your hands to yourself. And I say that in the most loving way possible. But I want you to understand that comes from a lot of things. We don't have a lot of time to go into the Crown Act, but I want you to understand that this was a law that was created so that Black women and children can wear their hair the way it naturally grows out of their hair to school and to work. They cannot be fired or expelled from school because of wearing their hair the way it naturally grows. It seems preposterous, but unfortunately, this is the real world we live in. Maybe some of that insecurity comes from the trauma of hearing stories like Sarah Bartman. She was in Europe born in 1789, the first black woman to be sold into human trafficking. Further, she was put on display naked day in and day out, exhibited in science fairs and freak shows because of the way her body looked. A lot of the white people were fascinated by it, so they paid money to watch her stand there as such, naked. She died at 25 years old. That also was probably contributed because she was not paid. Her owners were paid for people to have sex with her if they wanted to. She was mistreated, even up into her death at 25 years old. Her body parts were put on displays in museums until 1974. This is mind-boggling to me. And her remains, they didn't even receive a proper burial until 2002, guys. She died in 1815. So when it comes to my hair and it comes to the insecurities of it in my body, black people have been oogled and ogled our entire lives. And you'll see a lot of different things where you see black kids were actually put in monkey cages and people would walk by and feed them popcorn. So there's a lot of insecurity that goes behind that. In college, when the first time I went natural and I wore this hairstyle you'll see here, and they're called finger coils. But when I went to college, they were referred to as worms. My white friends were like, "Oh my gosh, you're lucky you have worms in your hair." Again, I was embarrassed. I couldn't wait for it to be over. But what do? Do I laugh it off? I laughed it off because everything I do has a comedic undertone to it. And I think that's a defense mechanism. But at the same time, I'm not confrontational. So I didn't want to engage there. But then again, if I do, now I'm perpetuating the stereotype of being a mad black woman, when that shouldn't be the case for me wearing the hair the way I want to wear my hair, as it naturally grows out of my scalp, which again is mind-boggling to me. My black experience is my experience. Here's a question. What if our learned behavior is actually scared behavior? We're taught as an early age to act and to do things in public that aren't part of our norm. Why? Because our parents are scared for our lives. And you'll see in this video here, you've got this little boy. He's playing basketball by himself. There he goes, just dribbling, minding his own business. But as you see, he starts looking off to the side. What he sees is a cop car. What does he do? He hides. And I know some people think, well, that's just a little bit of a paranoia. No. This is real life. There's a difference between paranoia and insecurity. Unfortunately, the things that we deal with in our lives tell us that we aren't safe when it comes to law enforcement. I am not saying all law enforcement is bad. What I am saying is there's been a systematic of oppression and injustice. And what happens when we get faced in that type of situation is more times than not, we lose. We lose not just our dignity and our grace and probably our minds, but we lose our lives ultimately. Part of my black experience is I was in a focus group and there was a white man who told me that I have never been pulled over for being black in Edmond. I grew up in Edmond. He said that. He was ready to fight me because of this. And I let him know, like, I've genuinely been pulled over. He pulled out every stereotype in the book. You were probably smoking weed in your car. Y'all that know me, please. No, thank you, sir. My tent was too dark. I didn't have insurance. My license was expired. My tags were expired. All of the ideas came to his mind that he said, and I was just like, I can't believe this is an actual thought that this guy actually has. Another time when I was in Edmond, I was at Crest, and I was small talking with the cashier. Surprise there, right? Me talking to somebody. And I'm just like, oh man, I wish my bill would be cheaper. My goodness, that would be so good. And she was like, oh ma'am, it will be. And I was like, how? Like, tell me, what did I sign up? Did I win something? Like, what happened? She said, no, ma'am, with your food stamps, your bill is going to be cheaper. What? And then again, insecurities. Was my hair not right? Was I not dressed correctly? Did I not speak a certain way? Did I not say things the right way? And in that instance, I have to ask myself, what do I do? Do I comply and just laugh it off nervously? Do I correct her? But if I correct her, am I now fitting that stereotype of a mad black woman? And then everybody that I talk to, oh my gosh, you need to go to Crest Management. You need to do this. You need to put her in her place. Well, Now I'm just fitting into all the stereotypes and I'm seen as threatening. And you've got this mad black woman yelling in Crest over food stamps. And depending on what media outlet you tell, that's the story that will be told. Ma'am is upset because she did not get food stamps. And it's like, wait, no, I don't even want. I will be paying with my debit card, ma'am. And so that also gets me to touch just a little bit on the riots and the protests that are going on. If you don't understand, and I'm not saying rioting is correct. What I am saying though is you have to understand behind that. How many times do we have to comply in order for our voices to be heard before you lose your mind? Some of you guys have kids. Your kids, they do not listen. You yell at them 5-6 times and finally you just lose it, right? You're just like, and they're like, why are you yelling? You're so crazy. That's kind of what's going on here on a much smaller scale. Part of my black experience is I've had people say, well, you're not like those type of black people, Krista. I roll. Or you talk white. Or, and I'm like, well, that shouldn't matter. The way I look or the way I talk shouldn't matter. My skin is the way it is. And that's my black experience. What all this boiled down to, I'm not afraid to be me. I'm going to be unapologetically me. I'm going to be authentic. I'm going to be raw. And not in just certain areas of my life. And that tagline actually comes from a nonprofit that I run that helps women who battle chronic pain and chronic illnesses. When you deal with something on a daily basis that's chronic, aka a pandemic of race, you have to be able to have open, honest conversations. You have to be okay with yourself. You have to be raw, authentic, and unapologetic. This insecurity pushes me to fight for the lives of my people. And the truth is, Black lives have not mattered since the first slave ship was landed in America in 1619. We've been fighting to get our lives back ever since. Black lives matter because of the rich inventors that we have, the leaders, directors, doctors, educators, the list goes on. And I cannot allow my insecurities to keep me hostage when my culture is so vibrant. And so I want don't allow your insecurities to keep the conversation quiet. If we do, we let the stories and the dreams of my people die in vain. The resiliency of my ancestors won't matter. And the genius creative ride of the Underground Railroad is washed away. The march towards freedom and the willingness to see our kids live better than those before us kills our future. Here's the thing. I'm certain that you will fail as you deal with insecurities of your, when it deals with insecurities when it comes to race. I'm sure that you will fail at that. And actually, I encourage it. And the reason why I encourage you to do that is it tells me that you're trying. It tells me that you're trying to be the example to those closest to you, to your spouses, your kids, your family, your coworkers, your friends. For those with kids, it's necessary for you to have this conversation with them. Allow them to ask questions. Some may say, listen closely to this. Some may say, well, I don't want my kids to lose their innocence. Well, I don't want them to grow in ignorance, because when they come functioning adults, they don't know how to have a conversation when it comes to race. Your next step is to not fight every Facebook post that you see. Your next step is to start or continue this conversation with those around you. And if you feel led to lovingly correct somebody on social media, then you must follow up with a phone call or a Zoom or an in-person meeting. You have to take it to that next step, and not in a righteous indignation, I'm finna tell you why you're wrong, but because you genuinely care about the person, and because that person is a part of your community, right? And not only that, but you want to understand why somebody has limiting beliefs. A lot of my friends in the videos earlier, they have limiting beliefs because of the environment that they were raised in. I can't fault them for that. What I do fault you for is not knowing better and doing better, right? The end goal of this conversation, the end goal is that this conversation does not stop here. I hope that this inspires you to true self-reflection of your own beliefs, your own implicit biases, your own insecurities, so that you know where you're at, so that you know where you need to go. That's important. Be honest with yourself. I hope that there are follow-up conversations in a month with those closest to you. I hope that you begin to share what you've learned about yourself as well as what you've learned about the Black community, because we all know that knowledge is power. So before you go, and I encourage conversations, but before you go to the next Black person you know or may see, the World Wide Web is a wonderful tool. Be sure to use that tool. There are so many resources out there for you to educate yourself, and then come to me and let's have a conversation at that point. So to end this talk, I have to ask the question, am I insecure? Nah, I'm just Black. Thank you guys so much for your time today. I appreciate it. Through social media. So thank you for sharing that, April. That is very, very productive. Daddy, I love you too. My sister says she's wearing her natural hair today. Hey, I was gonna lay mine out, but see, it's too early.
I have a point to make. Can you hear me?
Yes.
So just thinking about those Facebook posts, I learned something the other day that blew my mind. I was on Instagram, and a designer had posted that even something like the master bedroom has a racial undertone. And I didn't even realize that was a thing. Like, what? And it made me take a step back and be like, what else has been so ingrained in our society that we don't even realize that has a racial undertone? And I say that to say, sometimes these things are so ingrained in us and so a part of us, it's our belief. And just growing up, we always know when you approach someone about their beliefs, it's always hard to get them to kind of open up their mind or change or see from your perspective. And so just take that in mind when you are going to make a comment on someone's post, or if you're going to address something that this is one of those things that can be belief based for people. Racism is one of those things that is taught from a young age, so it's a learned behavior and it's belief based, and just keep that in mind. You might be opening up a can of worms. Basically, you just be prepared to receive some backlash. When you do make those comments, be prepared to gracefully either say, I'm not going to argue, or, if you do decide to engage, more power to you. But just, understand that could be a sore spot for some people when you do decide to post.
For sure. I see Angela's comment on there. That's my sister Janae. She's educated and has psychology degree and master's and all the things there. So say words, sister, do more. Angela says, we have a lot of friends reach out to have conversation. I only meet when I feel ready to talk with tons of grace. Sometimes I'm not in the right mental state. Yes. I've had a lot of white people reach out to me over the last few weeks. I appreciate it because that is help. That's letting me know you're trying. You want to know how to do more. I've had people say, can I just cook you dinner? Can I bring you wine? And I'm like, yes, because it's so stressful right now. But I think you understand that we want to have this conversation. But sometimes when we have the conversation over and over and over again, I was telling my family, even in preparing for this, it's like rehashing wounds all over again. It's like when you go to therapy and you unhash everything, but then you go see a new therapist and you got to do it all over again. And so in doing so, it's just like, it's a lot. So you have to protect your mental space. You have to protect your peace. So understand that it's not that a lot of us don't want to have conversations. It's just gauging when to have the conversation that feels right for us. I see Melissa, thank you for sharing openly and honestly. It amazes me how much I don't know. How can we let people of color know that we are allies and interested in moving the conversation forward? Well, number one, I hope that your community does not look like you, right? And I know Melissa knows we can have conversations all day long, but if your community looks like you, then you can't actually have a conversation, right? I think that's one thing you have to do, is not befriend a Black person so that you can say, I have a Black friend. We all know that that is not a thing to say. Okay. But what you want to do is make sure you have people that don't look like you, so that there is trust in that relationship, right? I'm not going to walk up to somebody on the stranger and say, I'm Black and this is how I feel. But to my white friends that I'm close with, I know I can go to Rochelle and say, listen, I am just so feeling like this today. And she would be like, man, I'm so sorry. You know what I mean? And in that same respect, Melissa, you do that with people that you're close with. And if you're not close with any, because you're just not in that environment, I don't fault you for that. That's fine. But then that means you need to join a community base, whether it's Creative Mornings, not so shameless plug, or any other type of community outreach, or a church a function or event, things like that. When you go to things like that, that gives you more opportunity to engage with people that don't look like you. Intentionally put yourself in situations to where you have to engage with others, because that's important for your own personal growth and knowledge. So that, again, like I said, we don't want to lose our innocence, but I don't want you to grow in ignorance. Anybody else have anything? Kim, I was not ready for the anger outrage response. How do you deal with that? What do you mean anger out? Like in response to like the food stamps comment? Oh, okay. She said, for instance, Jesus says all lives matter. We don't have time to get into all of that, Kim. All lives matter, but Jesus went to save sinners. He didn't go to save the church people. Healthy people don't go to the hospital, right? Healthy people, yes, healthy people matter. Their lives matter, but if I'm dealing with cancer, I need all the help I need at the moment. So that's why I got to say that, dadgummit, because I can't. I see you, Reagan. Yeah. Don't assume I have all the answers. My experience as a person of color is different from other persons of color. Yes, Monique, that's so true. Even with the conversation of, do you say Black or do you say African American? All of the Black people are going to have a different generalization for that. I don't speak for all Black people. I try to have an understanding and perspective of different backgrounds that within the Black community, but at the same time, some people prefer African American. For me, I'm okay with Black, so it does differ. Melissa, he left the 99 to go after the one. Yes, come on, scripture.
Oh, Krista, I'm so sorry. It's Kim again.
Hey, Kim.
I have 100 questions because I
love it.
I'm in the fight with you. I really am. But really, it's a genuine question. How do you deal with the angry response? I mean, like, not just all lives matter. That was just an example. Like, gotcha. Over and over again, Christians, Jesus loving individuals,
for sure,
are pissed when to bring it up. How do you handle that?
Yeah.
Or did they show that to you, or only to me?
No, I see that because I'm friends with a lot of white people. I was raised in Edmond, but even just the people that I know, I'm friends with all the people, right? I'm still processing that, because when I see somebody's comment on social media, but I've got to go like, I serve with you at church. Whew. How am I supposed to shake your hand and say Jesus loves you? Yes, he does, but I don't right now. That is hard, Kim. How do you deal with the outrage? Well, for me, I'm in a support group called Vulnerable Black Women. I'm around women who are going through the same things that I'm going through because they understand it. So what I do is I talk with my family and my friends, my Black friends. We have conversations of just saying, guys, this is like, I'm frustrated, and we encourage each other to not do that, because then what do? Fit that stereotype. Now she's angry, and it's hard to do that in all areas, right? Because you don't want to do that in the workplace, because now you have to work with people all day, every day, and you don't want to have that tension. But at the same time, do you just let it go? It's tough, and it is not That's not an easy question of how do you deal with it. Me personally, I get peace from the love of Jesus Christ and understanding that he loves me no matter what. And then he's going to come back someday. And so if everything that I'm doing is a reflection of him, when I stand in front of him on Judgment Day, I can release, or even now before Judgment Day comes, I release all of my anger to him. When I did my walk for Ahmaud Arbery that weekend for his birthday weekend, my first walk that I did by myself intentionally because I wanted to like lament and cry out and just be angry. But in that time, I felt like God was speaking to me in that moment. And he said, Krista, release your anger and bitterness that you have. Yes, it is. You are angry and you have a right to be, that people are still insensitive and people aren't willing to grow and learn with you. Me personally, I have to give that to him in order to keep my sanity. I hope that answers your question. Oh, yes. Good. Monique, I don't entertain anyone that Harriet Tubman would have shot. Yep. Hey, Harriet Tubman was a real one. If y'all didn't know, she's like, if you own, you own. If you're not, I got to shoot you because I can't risk everybody else dying because you were scared. And that's good. Anyone else have anything to add?
I just want to say, as far as I'm concerned, you can talk as long as you want, as long as people are here to listen. Like, I don't care how long this goes. So if anybody else has anything to add, please.
Yeah, I'm good with keeping the conversation going for sure. It's important, and that's the reason why we decided to have it. And especially, I didn't want to push it out to the next month because it's what's going on right now, right? When it comes to feeling feelings, right? Like we need to feel them, which is why even going back to there's social media posts of people saying, don't share the video of Ahmaud Arbery or the video of George Floyd. And for the Black community, we don't need to see that because we live it. But it's important for a lot of people that aren't of color to see it because that's the only way for it to bring reality. When you feel emotions and feel pains, like you don't know the candle's hot unless you touch it, right? Once you do, you realize, oh, I'm not going to do that again. When you feel those feelings, feel it, man. Allow it to resonate in your soul. Understand and empathize. Like, oh man, this is the state of the world that we're in right now. Wow. Allow compassion to take over in that time frame. Miriam, I grew up with a white evangelical church, and seeing how people are responding to what is happening in the world it's been extremely heartbreaking. Like Krista, I'm still trying to reconcile how to love people through this blatant hate. 100. That's tough. Like I said, it's tough, especially when it's people you grew up with, that, you know, they've helped you move. You've spent times together, and to see them share a post that's insensitive it's heartbreaking. Janae, racism has continued because people still hold these beliefs. Realize that this will take time and that you can't always educate an ignorant person. For sure. You don't argue with a stump. You plant a seed, you water it, you try to come back to it. That's like keeping a toxic person in your life. You don't do that either. You can say, I appreciate you as a human. We disagree, but right now we can't have this conversation because you're not willing to even hear what I got to say. Like the white man that tried to fight me for saying all of it, that I got pulled over for being Black in Edmond. Well, that did happen. He was not willing to hear my perspective, and he was immediately irate and defensive. I don't have to continue that conversation with him because it's not going to go anywhere. So I think that's definitely key. Thanks for sharing that, Janae. Anybody else? Tough question or comment that you have, or thoughts that you're thinking. I want you to know, if you're thinking a thought, most everybody's thinking it too, because by humans, it's just kind of how we are. But so don't let the fear hold you back, because we aren't here to be insecure. Okay. Excuse me. Let me drink this water, Melissa. Ugh.
So in response to what Kim asked earlier, I think most people have probably had somebody tell them, you know, like something that you said, not necessarily within this context, not necessarily within Black Lives Matters, but I'm sure everybody has had somebody say, you know, like, the words you used made me feel uncomfortable, or like it hurt my feelings or something like that. And me personally, I mean, I've had people say that to me, and me personally, I try to not respond immediately if it's at all possible. Like if it's in a conversation, obviously you have to respond immediately, but if it's, you know, like an email or a text, I take some time before I respond, because I do think it's human nature to be defensive immediately, and just take time and really think about, like, well, it's not up to me to decide what's going to hurt your feelings or not hurt your feelings. Like, those are your experiences and they hurt your feelings for a reason, or something along those lines. But yeah, I'll sit with it for a while before I respond, so that I make sure that I'm
and all of that goes back to, if you're defensive for a reason, there's some insecurity there.
Exactly. Yeah.
Figure out, where is that coming from? Why do you feel that way? And it's okay to feel how you feel. It's just, what are you going to do once you figure it out? Exactly. Are you going to get down to the bottom of it? Are you going to figure it out? Or are you just going to be like, oh, uncomfortable, out, not doing this today? That doesn't move any conversation forward, whether we're talking about race or even relationships or whatever that case looks like. As humans that function very well, that should function very well, we have to take the time to process. And I think we're in a microwave society because we want things done instantly, and we feel like we have to give a response. I got to respond right now, because let me tell you. But I think that that's a good idea, to pause. And even I can do that, pause and say, okay, what they said hurt me. Did it hurt me because I feel some type of way? Did it hurt me because I find them offensive? What does that look like? That's a great point. Oh my goodness, April, he's so cute. Introduce us, April. Who do we have?
This is Marcel.
Oh, Marcel. Y'all know Kayla the kids. Hi, Marcel. Oh, look at that smile. This is what we're doing this for, that generation there, right? He's going to grow up. He may be in law enforcement or government, or he may be the owner of a business. He may be a great leader of some sort. And he's the one that's going to be making decisions in the future of our community. So if we began to teach our kids this conversations, then when there's adults are not uncomfortable with having a race conversation, they're not put off and insecure and afraid to continue having these talks. So thanks for being here, Marcel. Prejudice is a burden that confuses the past, threatens the future, and renders the present inaccessible. Maya Angelou. Listen, Maya be saying stuff, y'all, like all the time, and I just be like, Maya, thank you. Yes, that is so cool. That is so true. Thanks for sharing that, Monique. Anybody else got anything? I will literally sit here and just ramble and say whatever comes to my mind. So, Janae, breaking generational racism starts with a lifestyle change. Oh, for sure. And we did a talk a couple weeks ago for an event called We the Change, and it was focused on our kids being the change, giving them a platform and voice to speak up, and also to learn about things that are going on in our society. And Janae, coming from a behavioral therapist standpoint, she talks about the conditioned behaviors, and what she actually does is like ABA therapy. I know that stands for applied behavior analysis. Unmute, Janae. What is your deal? I know you work with kids with autism and changing their behavior.
Applied behavioral analysis.
ABA, it's what I said.
Go
ahead.
It's those small behaviors that you change every day that add up to that generational change. It starts when you are, young, and then you make these small changes, even just on how you talk to your kids, or where you go to eat, or who do you buy your clothes from. It's those small things that will add up to a big impact. So just keep that in mind as you leave this conversation. How can I actually apply this to my daily life so that this is the norm, that we can move the conversation forward and hopefully eventually one day eradicate racism. It starts in those small behaviors you do every day. And then before you know it, it's not a thing. It's like, oh, this is just life. This is just how we live life, So, yeah.
Well, isn't that how racism started? Slowly, just a slowly change, right? It was
Right.
abrupt on our end because we were just taking, but it was we're going to slowly do this over time, right? So I think that's a good point. I had another thought there and I lost it. Fiddlesticks. Hello. If it ain't Jesus, don't answer. I'm just kidding, Millicent. Answer. Melissa, I just saw Clarkson tell him I said hello and I miss his curly hair. But then again, he's not 3 anymore, so that would make sense. Anybody else? What else you got? Father, I know you've got words. I almost said, okay, Boomer, do you know how to unmute? But I won't do you like that. But I actually just did. So y'all know I'm a mess. It's fine. Thumbs down, Monique says. Love you too, Leanne. Have a great day. Thanks for joining in. I really appreciate all of this, being able to see you guys, being able to comment and whatnot. Anybody else pondering on anything, trying to decide, do I say it? Don't I say it? I always just say it. Well, Melissa?
Well, if nobody else has anything to say, we could go ahead and end it. Oh, Beck Barcosi has something to say.
Beck, I hope you're feeling better. Thank you. Appreciate your support. Love OKC. Ride or die OKC for sure.
Hello, this is Aisha Pons. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. I am in Raleigh, North Carolina. So
What's
I
up?
take a part with Creative Mornings here in Raleigh from time to time and work in corporate America. And so it's been interesting. First, thank you for just your candor and transparency with telling your story. And I think the aspect of each of us having different stories is kind of a novel thing to this conversation too, which is kind of bizarre to me because like, why wouldn't we all have different walks of life,
right,
statuses and all the things? Like, why is that weird? But one concept, when I think about I think the brilliance of using the word insecure to describe this as I would say, as the other side of the coin of describing this life experience, right, is something that I'd not thought of. And I love that it helps to bring out what that is. Even for me, as I was watching the videos, it made me start thinking about what's my thing. And the spaces that I've shown up in, and the fact that I do wear my hair relaxed, and I even recall being amongst other Black women who are all natural and I'm not, and that could be a thing, right? And so
Oh,
it's
for
like
sure.
this thing we do, and I'm kind of rambling, but I think
No, you're good.
The concept of it is I have my why. I have been natural. I've done that. I'm 40 something years old, and that's what I'm doing right now. So
Yep.
like,
Yep.
you know,
Yep.
and being okay with that.
Yeah.
But I think it is kind of this constant conversation that you have to do with self as you're having conversations with other people, so that you're not put in the position to be speaking for the race and or speaking for your generation
Mm-hmm.
or speaking for all women. I mean, there's so many aspects of being a Black woman that I think we are challenged to deal with on a day-to-day basis, you know, whether it from a race perspective, from a gender perspective, and I think the complexities of that, we're just hitting, you know, the tip of that in terms of how we show up and have shown up. So one question I had for you, as I said all of that, is, you know, the work to be brave and have these conversations with your friends. How did that become for you? Because I listening to you is very mirroring for me. I was always that talkative child. I was always that, you know, had that on my report card, like she talked too much in class. and
Listen.
and so I think that bravery, so you know, they say God protects children and fools. And so I think some of that bravery is just out of that. And then there are other things where you may not be as brave. And so just curious if you could share how you feel you've kind of matriculated to this place,
Yeah.
and other things that you might see yourself that you're currently working on, or see yourself needing to work on.
Well, I actually had a guy reach out to me here recently because I've been super vocal on social media, and he's known me for over a decade now. And his question to me was, "Oh, since when did you be like down for the cause?" You know what I mean? In that sense of speaking out. And I think for me, I've always been that talkative person, and but when I understood that I have influence and that I'm in a leadership role, shoot, that is such a responsibility that I think people don't realize how big leadership is. And when you're put into that position, and I come from a background of ministry, and so I was trained in leadership and what that looks like. And when you have somebody following you for the right or the wrong reasons, I'm responsible for what I put out there. And if that's the case, then I want to make sure that everything that I'm saying, that I'm intentional in doing it. The bravery part, man, for me, one thing I've been saying over the last few weeks really is, and honestly, I've been having these conversations for about 3 years now. Where are we at? Yeah. So I started slow, right? I just started with people at church. I started sharing just a little bit of my story with people at the church that I was attending, and people asking to meet one-on-one and to ask questions. I think one thing for me is being an approachable person. And not everybody nobody has to be approachable. I'm not saying that, but for me, being approachable, being a people person, being an Enneagram 7, I couldn't help but continue to be more vocal than I was just on one-on-one basis. So in the recent years, my voice translated to social media just because I was able to still have that platform and that influence and that leadership. Another thing that I've been saying is, man, like our ancestors before us, if they used their voice, they were killed. I think the least I can do is, if I'm already talking, I might as well say something worth listening to. There's so many people who, and I mean, and it's still happening now. Unfortunately, you see, just earlier this year, or was it last week, the the black girl who was lit on fire in her car. They yelled the
Yes.
N-word and then lit her on fire.
Yes.
Or you'll see the hangings that are happening, and it's like, wait, what's happening here? And yes, that is happening, but that is not happening nearly as much as it was in the past, right? I don't fear being lynched for having a platform. They killed Martin Luther King because of his voice. I don't feel that fear, and not, but even if I did, like, I think the least I could do is use my voice. I think Black people have been so creative in ways of trying to achieve freedom from, I shared this post the other day, the way that cornrows started, the way that people would braid their hair was actually roots of how to escape. And so that's why you see the design and the different things like that that's happening there. And so understanding the culture and why things are the way they are, we've been creative for so long. The least I can do is share my voice and say something that's worthwhile while I'm here. The Bible says our lives are nothing but a vapor. I'm going to die someday. We all are. And I think just as I mature and just get older, that I understand what I have to say. I see my dad commenting in elementary school, Krista would get in trouble for using her voice and stand up for the underdog. I got kicked out of every single class in grade school. Every teacher, I'm not exaggerating. I was kicked out. I don't know how long into the year I would last before they switched me to a new teacher, all the way up until freshman year of high school, because I battled with my teacher and I stood up for what I thought was right. I've always been using my voice and being loud, whatever that means. And I had insecurities with that. Do I speak up? Do I not speak up? Do I say something? Do I not? But as far as how it translated into me being here before you now, I think it's just going ahead and answering the call and saying, okay, all right, God, like, I'm going to use my voice. I might as well talk about this right now, especially if people are listening.
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you. Thank you.
No, thank you for joining in all the way from out there. Good to have you. Oh, I see Kim's comment, but I also see, okay. Anybody else have anything they want to add? Like, I think that was really good. Thank you, Aisha, for sharing that.
I want to say thank you, Aisha, because I totally identify with everything that you brought up and totally thoughts that I have had in the past. And I'm so glad that you brought those up because, you know, they're not always on the forefront of my mind, but they are things that I think about. So thank you for sharing that.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you.
That's why I love storytelling and sharing, because when we do that, we find commonalities amongst ourselves. We're on different sides of the country and we found a commonality just then. I was in a chronic pain group. Shout out to Angela Sanders. She was the leader there of that group at my church. And we would talk about the different chronic pains and illnesses that we had going on. And when I was in that group, I didn't even realize that a certain thing that I was doing was attributed to the illness that I had. And it wasn't until I got around that I was able to put names to things that I was doing. And I had so much more clarity in doing so. So if I take that concept and add it to everything else, when I share, I am now either imparting or receiving wisdom that's going to help me be a better person. And I think it's going to help bring things to the forefront, like Janae just said, and like, it's going to help you realize, okay, and not only that, but it's going to normalize a lot of thoughts that you probably have as well. You've got people all over our country who are having the exact same thoughts and feelings. It's just nobody knows it because nobody talks about it. You see now that people are now speaking up for mental health because we're in an age of social media and people are now more comfortable in sharing about these sort of things. But if nobody shared, then it would still be like this thing that nobody talked about. So storytelling and sharing is so necessary. And that's why I love Creative Mornings, because we get to hear from so many different community leaders who have incredible stories. Mackenzie, thank you for being here, my dear.
Krista. This is Angela Sanders.
Hey.
Hey. I just wanted to say thank you for being so open and vulnerable. I am not a 7. However, I have been a lot more vocal this time around with all of the police shootings and things that have happened. And for me, my biggest reason for doing so, it's 2 things. The first thing is my husband and I have been in ministry for years, and in a lot of those churches, we were the only Black faces. And so I realized that for me, a lot of my friends, I am maybe their only Black friend. And that kind of alarms me because I know that, like, for so many years, I just felt like, don't rock the boat, Angela. Like, I may have had those feelings and thoughts. There's been so many things that have been said and done that we didn't correct. And then I see people, like those same circles of people, posting things now today. And I kind of started thinking back, like, hey, what if I had been a little more willing and open to share? Like, maybe I could have changed a little bit of their viewpoints, or maybe just even kind of started planting those seeds. So for me, I've been just very vocal because, like, I realized that and I don't want to look back 10 years from now, and those people who I really do care about have a lot of those same biases and misconceptions and just crazy things. Because I'm thinking, man, do you really know me? Like, when I hear some of the things, that have been posted. Secondly, for Morel and I, we started realizing, we have kids. Like, my oldest is 17. She's going to be a senior. I don't want her to be in a hurry, but we could have grandkids, like, in the next, 5-6 years. And I do not want my grandkids to have to be dealing with and having some of these exact same conversations, these exact same circumstances. And so even my husband has been a lot more vocal and just been trying to get involved and having meetings with people in the community because we realize, like, we're the next generation. Like, we've got to speak out right now so that our kids don't have to deal with the things that we're dealing with now. So I just wanted to add that.
That's huge. Silence is violence, right? And it's on both sides. And I hadn't really thought about it being on the Black side. But if you think about that, you spend years with somebody and you don't correct the little things here and there, then slowly over time, it's almost like you've been permissible and you've had a hand in the way that they are. So you're right. Like,
yeah.
I think it's important that we do speak up when we use our voice, and there's a way to do it in a loving way, but also that gets the point across. It's necessary for us to do that. And then on the other side too, it's both. I love that, Angela.
And from a behavioral perspective, when your child is acting out or doing something they shouldn't do, you don't correct them 2 days later, a week later, a year later. You correct them in the moment.
Yeah.
And I think that that's so key. If you are going to speak out, don't be afraid to make that correction in the moment, because then it teaches it teaches them in real life. In that moment, they have an opportunity to learn and grow and change from the correction. And it can, be from love and grace. You don't have to be, an antagonist, but, just correct someone. If they're doing something wrong, you correct them in that moment. If they're treating you wrong, you correct them in that moment, and don't let it, pass by, because then it is like you are complicit and that, that behavior is okay, and it's not,
For sure. That's good.
And also just know that watch your children, what they do. Sometimes those behaviors are from you. And so you're not, doing it not knowingly. Even just with my daughter, I know sometimes I'll say stuff and do stuff, and then the next minute she's doing it. And I'm like, she had to have learned it from me, because I know that's something that I do. Take ownership of it and then correct it in yourself so that your child can know how to correct it as well. Because they listen to your conversations, they go to school, they say it to their teachers. Being an educator, I get all kinds of things from kids. And I know it comes from parents, because it's not something a 4 or 5-year-old would know.
Right.
So, and I mean, I've had recent things have been said to me from 4 and 5-year-olds, and 4 and 5-year-olds don't know how to do that.
you know? So it comes from somewhere, and it's whoever's, you know, whoever they're around. And again, it could be blindly done. You may not be knowing you're doing it, but listening to those conversations of your children would kind of help you understand, like, oh man, I need to change my vocabulary. I need to change the way I think or my behavior in that situation.
That's good. That's for sure good. Yeah, we know our children are picking up on everything we say, which is why I think it's important that if we scoff at something, if we laugh at something that's inappropriate on all forms, right? But also specifically since we're talking about race, our children pick up on that and they will say that, you know, and it's unfortunate when it happens, but then it's a testament to the things that you're saying, whether you think okay, I'm an adult, but it's fine that I just understood the saying, little rabbit has big ears. I never knew what that meant. My family would say that all the time, little rabbit has big ears. Well, that just meant that I was always alert and listening and paying attention to what they were saying. So remember all these little rabbits and their big ears around us.
Also, everybody, I encourage you to follow Krista on social media too, because she posts a bunch of stuff that's opened my eyes. I have a lot to learn still. And she, I have a feeling, will keep the conversation going there too.
I will. I definitely will. Y'all know that for sure. Or even meetups. I love meeting up for coffee. I love coffee. Let's just be real. But I'm totally down to meet up and continue the conversation. If you are not a 7 and comfortable speaking in this realm right here, or just shoot me a message. We can talk that way. When is your podcast coming? YouTube channel. Your voice is so soothing. Here's what's funny. I wish y'all could see my setup right now. You can see the microphone, but I am recording this. I am working on putting out some videos on my YouTube channel and just sharing thoughts and things like that. I like I was saying earlier, I want to continue to use my voice, whatever that looks like. But then also I do spoken word. I MC events and things like that. So it's funny that Janae is saying that, because not only is she my sister, she is my manager, and I am bad at putting myself out there when it comes to speaking engagements and you know, I don't want to use the word, but I guess being solicited for speaking engagements. That's not how you say that. That sounds very prostitute-y. It's not the way. Okay, we're just gonna move on. Thanks, Janae. Okay, just stop it now. Yes. Yes, Janae. Thank you, Suze. I hope you're feeling better. Monique, will you write a book? Listen, my sisters are trolling me right now. Monique and Janae are my sisters, if you haven't realized it yet. But they know I've been writing a book for 1,100 years. 2 books. But yes, I'll get all that out. You can catch me at The Ugly Duckling Brand on Instagram and on Facebook. And you can go to my website on there to see where my next events will be and the different things that I'm a part of and different blogs that I'm writing and things like that.
Well, if nobody else has anything, there we go.
There it is, The Ugly Duckling Brand.
If nobody else has anything else, we can totally wrap this up. I know Krista said she has to get to work, but
yeah. Cash App her. Y'all stop.
Well, Krista, we love your voice.
Thank you guys. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much. And I'm very envious of people that can talk so freely like you can. If anybody knows me, language is not my art. My art is visual. So I always try to get Krista up on stage to say something at our events because she's so good at public speaking.
I love it. I love it so much. Thank y'all for having me. OKC, right. Love it. You guys are awesome.
Thank you.
I want y'all to have a great day.
All right. Bye, everyone. Thank you.